Happy birthday to the centenarian West Australian artist Trudy Smith. In her 100 years, Trudy has been many things. She's been a runaway, a life model, a nurse, a wife, an immigrant and a mother. But it wasn't until she was 85 that she got serious about painting. That was her lifelong dream, to be a painter, and she waited till she was 85, and now at 100 she's created enough work for an exhibition which is on at the Mundaring Art Centre in Perth. Trudy Smith welcomes Claire Nichols to her home.
I have a funny sign up there that was sent by my wacky granddaughter who lives outside London. And it says, I'll have to read it, Trudy Smith, born 24th of February 1916, great-grandmother, centenarian, artist, writer and adventurer, lives here.
Trudy, it's such a pleasure to be with you here in your home, and we're looking at some of your beautiful paintings. They're so full of colour and life. Can I ask you, what do you feel like when you're painting?
It's absolutely lovely. It's my way of relaxing. I never draw first. I just start painting, but I always spend quite a long time looking at the canvas, the blank canvas, which is bliss for me. And as I sit and look at it, a picture comes for me on the canvas. I don't really know what I'm going to paint. I just paint. And it's absolutely what I need to do.
I understand you use the name Rillawood while you're painting. Where does that name come from, Trudy?
Well, it's my great-grandfather's name of his house in Cornwall, and I like the name. I've never been very keen on signing my work Trudy Smith because I always think it sounds very sort of bread and butter name. But it's not my name that I was christened. I was called Dorothy Gertrude, and I loathed Dorothy. And my mother was called Gertrude, so I picked up the Trudy at the end, and I've always been Trudy.
Tell me a bit about your childhood in Yorkshire.
My father and mother were fairly elderly when they had me, and my brothers were away at boarding school, so I was more or less an only child. And to amuse myself, I used to play in the garden. We had a big garden with trees. And as it was the end of the First World War, there weren't toys, so I wasn't given a lot of toys at all. And my toys were the outside world. I was no good at school at all. I spent my time looking out of the window. So I said to my father, I'd like to train as a nurse. But he said, that's not suitable. That's not suitable at all for you. So there was nothing. And I was just bored. I was about 19 by then. So I just took off and ran away to London. Of course, it was called running away from home in those days, but I was 19.
And your pose, that cute, fantastic nose.
I was going to be an artist and live in an attic. And I thought I could, I really did. Of course, when I got there, it was so different. It wasn't like that at all. The attics were full of bugs. If you got a poor room, it was filthy and horrible. And eventually I had to get a job, so I got a job as a seamstress. I lived in Chelsea, and I was among all the, arty people. And I adored London, absolutely loved it. And I felt at home. You could do what you liked, People could walk about in the street dressed anyhow, or in their bare feet, or however it was, and nobody took any notice, whereas at home, if you went out without a hat on, people thought you must have rushed out of the house because something dreadful had happened.
All the relatives, we have dogs for years and years. And what'll they tell me exactly? What
You're a life model in London?
Well, I did for a bit because it was very difficult living on about $12 a week, which I was getting with the sewing. The Polytechnic did live classes, and I learnt a great deal while I was modelling for live classes. I was getting all the lessons, you know. I was listening, I was learning, and it was really like going to an art school.
Did you tell your parents about your life modelling?
No. When I ran away from London, they really wiped me off. I wasn't a virgin anymore, and that was the end for me. And they called me dreadful names.
I can see the lights of home shining brightly o'er the foam.
When the war came, I became a member of the Civil Nursing Reserve. I was attached to a mobile ambulance, so there'd be about two or three nurses in the ambulance and a doctor, and we went, when there was a bomb, we went immediately so that they could treat people who were bleeding and things that had to be treated immediately. Of course, there were long times when nothing happened, but we always had something to do because there were so many people hurt during the blackout. And I remember one man came in and he wanted some attention, and we couldn't see anything wrong with him. And so we said to him, "What is it you're worried about? What is it?" And he looked at us and he said, "You don't think my nose is like this all the time, do you?" And he'd walked into a lamppost and his nose had swelled up.
Once again I long to be beneath the lights of home.
I got married and had children, and all these sort of things happened. My husband wanted to build a house in the country, and I really thought that was lovely, and we bought this place. And after we'd lived there in this house for about 6 months, he said, "I'm absolutely fed up. I built this house with a big window to look at the view, and I've seen nothing but rain ever since. I wish we lived in Australia." And I said, "Let's go." And that started it.
Do you remember your impressions of Australia when you first arrived?
You know, British people are pretty pleased with themselves, really. They think that, well, they had the whole of the empires and things like that. And I think we got a bit big-headed. And I always thought that Australia was just a foreign country with some British people living in it. But it wasn't like that. When I came out here, I found it was a strange country with Australians living in it. And we were not welcomed, absolutely not welcomed, partly because of our accents. They all thought we were trying to be posh. And it was really quite frightening. I couldn't understand the way they talked, and especially bus drivers. They talked so quickly, and I couldn't really understand them. And when I asked them what they were talking about, they said, "Go home. Learn the language or go home," was all I got. And it was really, really a disappointment, a real disappointment. Of course, we thought, this is hopeless, we're going home again. And we went home, and when we got home, it was worse being home than it was being in Australia. So we went back to Australia again, because it was, we had to look at it from a different point of view, and we got used to it, and it was an absolutely marvellous place.
Trudy, at 85 you decided that these dreams of being a painter, you were going to pursue them seriously? What made you make that decision at that age?
Well, my husband died. He'd had Alzheimer's for quite a long time, and I was busy with him. And then he died, and it was a blessing. It was quite a relief, but I was alone in the house. So I thought, well, it's no good sort of grumbling about it. I've got to rethink everything. And I thought, well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get a dog. So I got a dog, a deer dog. And then I thought, well, I've got time now. That's another thing I've got. So I started painting, and I found I couldn't, which was annoying to me, really annoying. And I thought, I've always not liked rules. I didn't like rules when I went to school. And I've never liked rules at all. And I thought, well, I'm not going to go somewhere and learn the rules to paint. I want to paint, but I'm going to do it myself.
What do you paint?
I like painting landscapes, but what I really want to paint is not realistically. I would like to paint abstracts which have a theme of nature, a sort of beginning of nature in them. The one up there that I've got, which is coloured, it's just really all colours. And I call that one The Evening and the Morning Was the First Day, when the light came. And there's really nothing in it but colour. And my aim is to get better at doing that.
Trudy, you're approaching your 100th birthday. How do you feel looking back on the 100 years? How are you feeling about life at the moment?
Well, I'm rather excited because I could go any minute now. I could go into the next stage, and I don't know what's going to be there, but I'm really looking forward to it, because every time you get on a bus or get on a train or anything, you really don't know what's going to happen. You think you do, but you don't. So you're really living with change all the time, and this is just a big change. At least it might not be. It might be very ordinary. I'm not religious, but I believe in God. They say God made man in his image, and using my brain, I think that's not true. Man made God in his image, and a horse would make God in a horse's image, and that's what we have done. The only thing I can imagine about God is nature, and I think that is God.
Well, wasn't that the most wonderful story? That's the remarkable Trudy Smith at a home in Eton near Bunbury in Western Australia. Claire Nichols with that lovely story. And there's an exhibition of Trudy's work called Rillawood, and it's on display at Mundaring Arts Centre until the 13th of March. And if you pop along to the website, you'll see a lovely picture of Trudy there, smiling away at the camera with 3 of her pictures.